I know YouTube is a little bit more liberal than TikTok when it comes to like what words you're allowed to say. And because I said the R word, there's so many R words. That's what's so annoying about me referencing it. But my live got shut down so fast for saying the word that Destiny called me like 7 times on his stream. And I'm pretty sure Destiny didn't lose no monetization or anything. You know, it's just not great practice to go throwing that word around regardless. More like retarded. What are we doing here today, people? Who is Destiny? What are we reacting to? Why is he calling me names? So Destiny, this guy with the blue hair here, you may have heard of him before. He is a pretty popular YouTuber, actually 672,000 subscribers. So Destiny is a pretty big content creator and streamer. From what I understand, he is formerly libertarian, now just considers himself left. He has very different views than me when it comes to father's rights, family court, which has led to him reacting to one of my videos. The video that Destiny is responding to of mine, debunking the dads get custody when they ask for it. This is like a big talking point for Destiny, and he regularly uses the argument of, well, if men just asked for custody, then they would get it. And so, of course, he was tagged in this by someone.
Nobody said they simply ask. Why would you take such a bad faith?
Okay, I will say, in response to this video, a lot of people were saying that it was I was making bad faith arguments. I'm saying that people say that dads get custody when they ask because that's what you guys say. That's literally the argument that I hear day in and day out is, well, if you just asked for it, you would get it. That's why I phrased it that way. If only 5 states total over the last 30 years have even looked into this, how can anybody confidently say, and that's how we know that nationwide there's no bias?
Oh, he's creating a new statement. I will further demonstrate that the very same data from which the 70% claim was derived also supports the following statement. This lady is retarded. Does she think that that statement comes from the study, but it doesn't? It sounds like a guy read the study on his own and he came up with a different interpretation.
You happen to leave out the part of this study that found that mothers are awarded sole custody.
So that wasn't a part of the study. She's what would you say, academically illiterate, which is fine.
So, okay, so this time he replaces the R word with academically illiterate. And again, if you see the way that this man came up with the 65% number, it is referencing the information that is in the survey. It's not like I'm just pulling this out of nowhere.
Because she's claiming that that number comes from this study, and it doesn't. It comes from somebody else's analysis and reinterpretation of it.
Destiny, and what did they analyze and interpret? Where did their analysis and interpretation come from, Destiny, if not the study? You think that that number didn't come from the study when you just read with your own mouth that it was sourced from the study. Destiny, you silly goose. Every single other state in this country is a sole custody state, meaning you would never be able to replicate these results in any of those other states.
Okay, then fine. Then why not find some research that backs you up? That's all you have to do.
What?
You're just gonna
What? Why don't you go find the research that backs you up, Destiny? How are you gonna hold me to this standard that doesn't exist, that you can't even hold yourself to? You literally just tried to find the same information that I did, and you just admitted that you couldn't, but now I suddenly have access to the stuff that doesn't exist? What are you talking about, dude? Of course more men are getting custody in Massachusetts because it's actually the law there. So if you like those results, guess what? You're on our side. You're on the side of equal shared parenting because we're the ones pushing for equal shared parenting in all 50 states so that fathers can get the custody they deserve. The only way to get the results that you like bragging about is through equal shared parenting. Next, to understand...
By the way, if you're curious why so many of these red pill guys are fighting on this point, the reason why a lot of them push that men should be able to have like automatic shared custody of children is because they just want to get out of paying child support. 1,000,000%. That.
This is one of the arguments that boils my blood more than most, is the argument that to say men only ask for 50-50 to get out of child support, that's stupid, because in most cases of 50-50, the dad is still paying child support anyway. And let's think about this. All these people trying to make the argument of, well, dads only ask for 50-50 custody to get out of paying child support. Y'all are the same ones talking about how it costs so much more than child support to actually raise the child. So how can one of those things be true and not the other? How can it cost more to raise the child when they're with you, but dads are just trying to get out of paying money by trying to spend more time with the child? Because it sounds from your own logic that they would only be spending way more money by taking on more of the custody.
With lawyers and judges having a lot to gain from removing the skepticism of gender bias from the courtrooms, as well as convincing men, traditionally the higher earners, that they actually have a shot in court, it sounds like they kind of already decided the results of the survey before it was even conducted.
Did she say they were unmarried?
Because Michigan, like most states, unlike Massachusetts, is a sole custody state. In these states, when an unmarried mother has a child...
Oh, well, looks like we found a good reason to get married, boys.
Destiny, what? Let me get this straight. So, you, having acknowledged that in a grand majority of states, unmarried mothers are awarded automatic sole physical and legal custody, responded by saying, well, looks like that's a good reason to get married, boys. Ha ha ha. Is that not extreme hypocrisy? You're literally having the take that it's a good thing that unmarried mothers get custody because it will push men to want to get married. You think that men should just marry women every time they impregnate them? Dude, that's more of a trad belief than even Pearl has. Dude, you just went even more Pearl than Pearl did. That's crazy, Destiny. Destiny, you're actually a trad wife and you don't even know it.
Child, she has what's called natural guardianship, meaning she is...
Shouldn't that be the case? If a woman has a child and she's unmarried, shouldn't she naturally have full custody of the child?
Why? Why exactly should an unmarried woman automatically have full legal and physical custody of the child when paternity is established, if he's on the birth certificate? Why? Inherently, why? Because vagina? Explain that one to me, Destiny. Explain it to me like I am the illiterate artard that you think I am.
That feels like it would be a normal thing, an ordinary thing, no? Like, I would imagine so. If the couple's on good terms, then they can easily have like a normal custody arrangement or not even figure out a formal one. But
what is this world that Destiny lives in where the couple doesn't get along well enough to stay together, but that they all just get along well enough to co-parent? That's the reason family court exists.
Absolutely true. If a woman has a kid and the father and the mom are not formally married, in the eyes of the state has no fucking idea if there's even a relationship that exists there. The state doesn't know if you're dating a woman. You don't go down to a courthouse and say, by the way, Your Honor, that's my girlfriend, okay? They might not even put your fucking name on the birth certificate if you're not married as the father. Sometimes they won't even do that at the hospital. Probably varies by state, probably varies by hospital. But they might not even put your fucking name on the birth certificate, or your last name on the birth certificate for the child if you're not there and if the mother doesn't allow it and blah, blah, blah.
To say, oh, well, moms should just get all of the custody because we're not sure if the dad will be involved. Do you know how many moms go home with their baby and then immediately hand that baby right off to grandma and dip out to the club 7 nights a week? Like, do you know how this entire generation of kids right now is just being brought up by their grandparents because the moms don't want to be involved? What do you mean? Oh, custody just goes to the mom because we don't know what the dad's going to be like. You don't know what the mom's going to be like. I've got to imagine Destiny hates what the overall red pill and black pill has done to damage the structure of what masculinity is supposed to look like. I'm imagining Destiny does not like masculinity being like strongly lumped into this one box of what it's supposed to look like. So then when he lumps masculinity into this box of people who don't care about their kids and people who just want to make sure they keep all their wealth to themselves, like, yes, that exists, but how are you going to get on me for the assumptions that I make when I'm like, I don't really know that all parents who separate want to share the parenting equally with their ex? You're like, that's a shocking assumption to make. And yet here you are assuming that most men are deadbeat dads. And statistically, you can look up that that's far from the case. You're a man of statistics. You know that most men are involved and active, and you're still choosing to perpetuate the narrative that most men are deadbeat.
I don't think me and Rachel ever, we might have worked out a formal custody agreement for really complicated health insurance reasons for our cancer stuff. But like otherwise, like we don't fight about custody in fucking court, right? Which, by the way,
Oh, right, Destiny. I almost forgot. Because it doesn't happen to you, all of our experiences are bullshit. Thanks for reminding me.
With assuming that the mother has default custody of the child, because in the state's eyes, they have no idea what the mother-father relationship is like. So it makes sense of you give it to the mother is sharing it with the father, that's fine. If they're dating or whatever, then that works. But in terms of like, oh, well then why is the father entitled to pay child support? Because you knocked up the mom and now it's your financial responsibility. You can abdicate social responsibility of the child.
Or, hear me out, dad gets custody and mom pays child support. Explain to me, because we don't know the mother-father relationship. We don't know what it is. So why are we not just assuming the father should get the child? I don't understand.
You cannot abdicate
Based on your
financial
argument.
responsibility for the child. If you and the mother are on good terms, it's not like she's going to sue you for child support while you guys are like living with each other, raising your kid. Destiny, so the mom gets 100% custody and authority, but the man is 50% responsible financially. LOL. If your mom and dad have you as a kid, if you go to the hospital, you have the kid, dad's name is on the birth certificate, you go home, the mom is not going to be filing a child support order while you guys are living together. That's not going to happen. So the parents would probably have shared or joint custody. Makes sense. And the man's not paying child support with the kid that he's living with. You guys are in like some delusional...
He says, cancer can't be terrible. Most people don't even have cancer. That's exactly what he sounds like, dude.
Saying if you're unmarried, it should still be 100% of the mother's custody, regardless of the status of the dad. Legally, yeah, but... who has the custody won't matter if you're both living together and you're both raising the child. It's like not a very relevant...
Why do you think that if a couple is not together, that they're living together and raising the child together?
This is one of those cases where I shouldn't even have to appeal to data. I should actually just be able to say like, well guys, let's just look in the real world at what happens, which is a dumb argument, but I know, but you guys usually do that.
All right, you guys are my witnesses. We all just watched the same thing. Destiny just said in his own stream that he should not have to rely on data when arguing why unmarried mothers should just get sole legal and physical custody. Destiny just made the argument that he should not have to rely on data. He should be able to use an emotional argument because that's what we do anyway. That's the most fourth grade response that I could have even thought of. And this is when Abba calls in. After all this, after all of those hot takes from Destiny, Abba has something to say. You're an editor to cut this shit out.
Oh, hey, what's up, buddy?
Oh, hey, I was just listening to your discussion about dads being deadbeats.
Gotcha.
And
What's up?
Okay, I do feel like you were strawmanning the thing. I don't think anybody here is saying the women or the mother not being there. But
That is the default red pill position. If you want to take a different position, that's fine.
But Destiny, not everyone against you is red pill. You're strawmanning me into all of red pill. And based on the context of my own video that you watched, you had nowhere near enough evidence to draw the conclusion that I am quote unquote red pill. Literally the first words of Abba even coming in here are, hey Destiny, you're kind of strawmanning because she literally didn't say all dads. And then he's like, no, but that's what they say. Who's they? Dude, you're like, Destiny lives in this weird, like, red and blue box where literally there's only people who are red pilled and only people with blue hair.
I would say that a lot of men are worried about the upsides or the downsides, but I don't think that's the main reason or the only reason that men are not.
And that's great, but I can't argue against her stories. The reality is what I would put money on is the vast majority of time, over 70% of where a man is being completely excluded from his child life, it's because he's a dog shit person.
You understand the mentality that you're willfully putting yourself into. This is what Destiny just said. He just said that he is willfully choosing to believe, based on no statistics, most men being alienated, effed up mindset that perpetuates racism, xenophobia, genocide, sexism. All of the worst things is all rooted into the same logic that you just willfully placed on all fathers being alienated from their children, is your ability to just dehumanize the ever-living shit out of them because it makes you more comfortable. Because it's way more comfortable to imagine that the only reason children aren't seeing their dad is for their own safety.
Yeah, on paper, if you're not married to a woman and she has a child, in the state's eyes, there's no person present. I don't even know how you would begin to make a person present. So it seems like
what
the
are
default.
You talking about? There's affidavits of parentage. He could be on the birth certificate. You could check social media to see if they're doing anything with the kid. This is exactly why people like me, not the red pill, just anyone who would like to see an increase in fathers' involvement in the homes, is trying to talk about more how family court reform, I would love to see it based more around both parents positioning their evidence that shows that they are fit and capable, as opposed to parents showing up to the courtroom with nothing but mud to sling at each other. Why is it like that? Why can't you show up, have CPS check out your house, and when they determine you're a normal, fit parent who clearly wants to be involved, then you get shared custody? Why is it only that you get custody if you can prove the other parent is a crap lord? Okay, that's what we're trying to say. And instead of acknowledging the fact that there are very reasonable, educated people like myself fighting for equal shared parenting without such radical talking points, he instead has to lump me into the red pill box because it makes his argument easier, even though everyone's hating it anyway.
Custody of the child would go to the woman. That seems okay for me. I don't know why you would default give it to both parents when the state has no idea if the father's involved in that relationship or not.
How do you even know the mother's involved? What about the fact that the baby came out of the vagina proves conclusively to you that she gives a shit from that point forward? Explain that to me.
If you want to have a kid, you should probably get married. That's probably one of the benefits of marriage there, is proving that you're married to the woman who's having a kid and you both get custody.
To say, if you have a child with someone, you gotta get married. You gotta get married. Dude, don't get me wrong. Ideally, that's best. But if everyone married the person they had a kid with just because they had a kid with them, there would be so many more toxic homes.
Why is it that it should default to the woman?
Because the woman is absolutely having the kid. She's there and having the kid. You have no guarantee that the father's there. The woman is definitely there.
He is choosing to willfully be in a vegetative state in his own brain. What is going on where this man thinks that just because a lady has a coochie, that she's an active and involved loving mom? That's not the way it works. That's the way it should work, but you know we don't live in a fantasy world, right, buddy?
But it's not just about having the kid. It's about being the responsible parent who has the best aptitudes to be able to raise a child. Why is it the default position that a female is better?
It's not that the female is better. It's just that the female is there and has the kid. The state has no idea if the man is present for that child. Whereas the woman definitely is. The woman can still lose custody. I mean, child protective services and everything can take custody from a woman, but
It's incredibly rare. Generally, the courts don't like doing that for a variety of reasons. But my question to you is, you're saying, well, we don't know the father's there. But we're saying that the father is there and does want to be...
Exactly. Fathers who are willing to fight in court. How can you call a man a deadbeat while he's simultaneously showing up in the courtroom at the same time? Only in Destiny's world can you be a deadbeat while in the courtroom paying for a lawyer.
Why is the default position, like, if he's present?
If he's present, well, wait, if the father's present and they're at the hospital, his name will go on the birth certificate. They probably do just have joint custody then.
If that's also my child and the mother dictates what kind of clothes my kid wears, what kind of haircuts they get, what kind of relationship they're gonna have with my grandparents or whatever the fuck it is, no, that's not actually a relationship that I would want to foster.
This is what I'm saying. Like, I think that Destiny just got so, like, hair triggered by the word controlling. Our custody situation has got so much better because my stepson is 14 now. So it's a very long period of time for both parents to grow up and mature. But I'm telling you, especially in the beginning years, these people get so petty. Like, in the earliest years, my husband was told that he can't take his son to the movie theater because that's him and mommy's special thing.
Yeah, I think that now we're getting to the weeds of it. I don't want to do that. I think this is an interesting conversation. I'm not mad at you for pushing back. And if what you're saying is true about the narratives that red pillars are speaking about, yeah, I'm not. Because I know of plenty of deadbeats also who exist in society who don't want to be involved in their children's lives, just want to foster kids. We cover those people on social media. They want to fuck around, then responsibilities come around and they bail. But the opposite side of that is very true. And I don't know if the numbers reflect that. I don't know if the numbers reflect dudes who are actually fighting to be in their kids' lives and are being cut out of them. I don't know if they do.
Well, the numbers reflect that, like, over 90% of people don't even go to court to fight for a custody arrangement.
Destiny with his hundreds of thousands of dollars. Yeah, sure, that's fine that people don't have the financial aptitude to fight in court for their own child, that they should have natural rights to. Like, this is such a great point, though, by ABBA, because Destiny keeps arguing, oh, well, the only reason that men fight in court is for control and to avoid child support. That's the only reason that men even fight in court, and if they don't fight in court, it's because they don't care and they don't want to be involved.
It doesn't make sense. It can't be that every woman is a f***ing genius with access to unlimited funds to hire divorce lawyers, but dads can't hire a $2,000 attorney to fight for their kids.
Well, why would a mom need to hire a lawyer? You just said it yourself. They have the natural rights. Like, it's not exactly the same thing, because typically to even start that battle, it's the man who has to start the battle. When has a mom ever had to fight for custody when she wasn't being fought first by a man who was trying to fight for his custody?
The divorce stuff is so dumb because most of the people that we're talking about when it comes to child custody issues are poor people. When you're saying, well, they can just fight in court and get custody of their kids, like, no, most poor people would never even consider really going to court like that and getting the finances together, because that sounds exhausting, expensive, and also a losing battle. That is a fact. I'm
pretty sure on paper I had no custody because the way that Rachel's health insurance had to work for her cancer medication, we had to do some wild contrived shit. Otherwise, she was gonna die from lymphoma. But like, I'm pretty sure on paper, technically, I got quote unquote fucked because I think she had 100% legal custody of Nathan, even when I was seeing him Monday through Friday or whatever from school, just because the health insurance shit was fucking wild. But yeah.
So Destiny doesn't even understand his own family court situation. Oftentimes what they'll do when two people have joint custody is there will still be someone with primary decision making, and the idea is that they basically get veto power of like the big stuff like medical and school, but that doesn't mean that Destiny doesn't have rights. Destiny as a person with custody has so many more rights. I don't know if this is going to make people a little bit more optimistic, but my husband did not end up getting custody, but we did secure a memorialized schedule, which we did not have the luxury of having, which was all we wanted. Unlike Destiny's wildest illusions of grandeur, no, not everybody does co-parent effectively. Some people truly do take a lot of joy out of watching you struggle and not planning things in accordance with you and just expecting you to be available at all times for them.
Here comes a new challenger! It's not looking good. And listen, let me say, I know a lot of people put me in the manosphere. I was listening to Destiny when I was driving back home. He was like, I already know what Lee's going to say. He's going to say this. He's going to say that.
Yep.
He represents men, right? People paint you in these corners without giving you the proper nuance. So
well, to be fair, I think you have actually said these things all in my stream before. That's typically what's going on, because we've talked about this in the past.
2 years ago, basically announcing that I'm leaving the manosphere. And a lot of people got upset about that, but I saw the handwriting on the wall. Things have been changed. It's like,
you saw Tate. You saw Tate being like, "Yo, look at these red pill dorks." And you're like, "I don't want to be a."
I do make men-centric content. I absolutely do that. I do it.
Me too.
Unapologetically. There's a lot of
Me
things
too.
that men need to understand about the system. Men need to understand about women.
What do you think is the average cost for like a child custody lawyer?
Basically, it's going to depend on your location. So an attorney in Silicon Valley is going to charge more than an attorney in Montgomery.
People don't realize is it's not just the money that you have to put into this. And you also have to understand, like, there's a lot of these guys who are working like 50, 60, 70, 80-hour weeks. A lot of these fields, these trades that guys are working in, that's required too.
And you have to remember that if you come to me, Destiny, for let's say you have a son and you're fighting your case, you have to pay me, right? But then you also, I'm going to say, hey, listen, the woman, I know, Destiny, you kind of waffled a little bit on whether there's even a small amount of bias that judges have towards women. Fair, I suppose, but anybody that's been working in the system absolutely knows that there's a bias.
Sure, and defense lawyers will tell you that, like, criminal defense laws are too strong, and prosecutors will tell you that of course, anybody in the system is going to have very strong opinions about the system. That doesn't mean their opinions are right or wrong, right?
Destiny, fun fact, but did you know that the majority of the information collected from that study that we were referencing earlier that you were using to definitively prove that men just get custody was largely based off of the testimony of judges and lawyers.
Here comes a new challenger!
Assured, like, unpopular kids who, like, had a word a day dictionary for Christmas every year. Truly the mark of an intellectual titan when you're trying to call somebody, what was it? Academically illiterate. And then you drop the R word in 2023. Well, she's academically illiterate. She's acting like an N-word. Oh my God, Destiny! Like, what are you doing?
So I understand that you, as an attorney that deals in family law with men that come to you to fight for custody, and other attorneys that deal with men that go to them for fighting for custodies, and then judges that are in family courts for people fighting for custodies. I agree that you guys even might all have like an opinion that all resonates with each other, but I don't know if that's reflective of the whole landscape of custody agreements, right? That's why I would like to see like information from like a court, are custody agreements all public, a matter of public record because it's all like filed in courts and everything?
The only people who have anything to gain from paying someone to go through all of these studies would be people really who are trying to disprove bias. No? Because the judges, the lawyers, all the people in power to actually pay someone to do these studies have no reason for the public opinion to be that there is bias within family court, because that would be bad for everybody.
You say multiple investigators on the ground. That's my point. A multiple investigator on the ground, it's the same value as talking to a lieutenant that's on the ground. You're on the ground, you're on the ground.
I disagree, but we might just have like a epistemic
difference. Talking to an
difference.
investigator that's on the ground is different than talking to a soldier who's on the ground?
Yes, because the goal of an investigator should be to collect a wide variety of stories to try to amalgamate them into some sort of like comprehensive view of a situation, not just one person's experience.
One investigator is one person's experience.
No, it's one person collecting many people's experiences and then compiling that. That's the research part of it.
Well, if I'm an attorney and I work with numerous people over 20 years, do I not have a compilation of numerous people's experience?
You do, but it's hyper selected for. It's a high level of...
I think this is what's like so aggravating, is the fact that like you've welcomed a lead attorney who's been involved in family court for years. That's the equivalent to welcoming an expert witness to the stand, but then he shows up and you just invalidate his whole opinion because it's just an opinion. Then what's the point of even welcoming highly credentialed people onto your show if you're just going to immediately disregard their credentials and treat them like they're just some random thought you brought on?
Selection bias. Much the same way that if I was a police officer and when I was, in the Bronx all day on night patrol, my collection of interactions with minorities is probably going to be really, 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 really bad.
Dude, one investigator.
I'm getting like low-key uncomfy vibes about the way Destiny talks about black people, because he has brought up black people like 5 different times throughout the stream, and every single time he does it, it's to bring up how bad and like degenerate their community is.
I'm not sure if you're aware of what it takes to be classified as an expert witness in a court case. They look at your education,
proceedings and whatnot, or stuff that's related. Sure. But I mean, like, so would like a psychologist being brought in, or somebody? No.
No.
Of course. What do you mean? Of course, psychologists can be expert witnesses in cases.
Well, in cases, absolutely. You said in divorces.
Oh, I'm sorry. In divorces, maybe not, unless it's some weird shit is coming up.
That's exactly right. Okay. You are interpreting that statistic correctly or incorrectly. An expert will tell you why this statistic is important.
Sure, I agree with you. But if there's something I'm decontextualizing and understanding, I'm always open to hearing that. I'm not one to just throw out a number. Like, I'm generally somewhat familiar with the studies I'm pulling this information from. If there's something I'm incorrect about, I'm welcome somebody to point out why something might be incorrect. Like in that video that I watched earlier, I don't know if you saw it, the lady said that actually that number was wrong.
I actually did not. I said, hey, here's one way of looking at the numbers, and here's another way of looking at it that will help you see things from another side.
Like for the cheating example, for instance, you made it sound like we could never trust a study on cheating. I don't know if, or maybe I'm uncharitably interpreting you there, but you made it sound like.
Okay, that's a little bit different though. You could, if you really take the time, you could get a quantifiable study about how many fathers win custody. That's something that you can actually quantify. But yes, getting an actual study of people honestly admitting whether or not they've cheated is impossible. You get that, right? You see how one is a tangible, objective number and metric that can be obtained, and the other is not. But this goes back to Destiny's like weird world that he lives in, where he's like, well, if something ideally should be some way, then that's the way we assume that it's actually happening in the real world.
I mean, they have limited effectiveness, but it's the only thing I can go by. And people are making incredibly strong claims on the other side with no data. So I'm going to rest on the little bit that I have, of course, to push back at least against the extremely unfair characterizations from the other side.
I'll take that all day.
Yeah, it's the other side making extremely unfair characterizations, not the man who's saying the majority of fathers are deadbeats. Because I feel like all the dads in my comment section are like, well, yeah, we all want to be there. That's what we want to do. And Destiny's like, oh, you guys aren't all like me?
Insane caricature that women are clawing their children away from fathers because they hate the dads or they're after child support. Do you think most dads aren't present in their children's lives? What do you know of like single...
What do you mean, why do you think most dads aren't present in their children's lives? Like, Destiny, you love Googling. Just Google how many dads are in their kids' lives and you will see so quickly it's the majority of them.
Do you think the number is? Do you think that of separated households, what percentage of dads do you think have what they would consider like an acceptable custody arrangement with the mom? What would your guess be?
Acceptable? Well, I had asked if they had gotten as much as they wanted. You're saying if they have an acceptable amount, and those two are different. So, people come to us for so many different reasons. And again, that's why I think it's so great that we're having these conversations so I can explain this stuff to you.
All Destiny did was just double down on his own opinions and then ask a bunch of weird questions on statistics that we'll probably never actually have. It was just kind of like what do you think the number of this might be? And what do you think the number of this might be? But like, it just, there was no way for it to be a productive conversation, because every single time the lawyer was like, well, in my experience, this is what I see. Destiny's like, okay, well, that's just your experience. And it's kind of like, then why am I here?